Hello everybody, Maven here, and Act 2 of episode Revenant has launched today, and with it comes a handful of sandbox changes. One of which is to the point contact cannon brace, which kinda sucks because I just put out a point contact cannon brace build video last week. If you want to check it out, the build's a little bit different to this one. But alas, we must revisit it again already because it got quite the substantial buff. The patch notes are as follows. The lightning bolts you create while amplified now do 100% bonus damage, up from 50%, and also lightning strike defeats now refund melee energy as opposed to just the thunderclap alone. So I'm sure you can tell these buffs are quite thick, so I just had to make a build out of it. So let's break it down. Hope you enjoy. This video is sponsored by Advanced GG, the only clinically proven gaming supplement shown to improve your gaming performance. Use code MAVEN at checkout for 10% off your order, but until November 25th, we have a special code MAVEN30 for 30% off your order. Link down below. Thank you. Now, I'm sure the first thing some of you might ask is, does this new buff apply to the Spirit of Contact on the exotic class item? And sadly, it does not. If you read the exotic class item, it only says the part about creating lightning bolts. It says nothing about doing more damage when amplified or refunding melee energy. So this buff is really only going to apply to the actual point contact cannon brace. So with that said, you can use the point contact cannon brace on either arc or prismatic, but I opted for arc. I tested both extensively, and honestly you can dip either way and you're not going wrong. But I went with arc because I felt that the synergy with this exotic was slightly better on arc over prismatic, not only for the jolt synergies but for ability spam. On prismatic you got faceted balance to help charge your melee, but when it comes to your aspects there's not really anything too impressive to pair along with the obvious knockout. You ain't using consecration, and your best bets are things like Diamond Lance or Dranger's Lash, which are fine. And to be honest, the main payoff of going prismatic is the ability to transcend. So if you go with prismatic, really, I don't blame ya. It's perfectly well and good, but I felt that the neutral game consistency on arc was a bit better. So anyways, let's read the point contact cannon brace. Defeating targets with your thunderclap melee restores melee energy. Targets near you when you use your thunderclap suffer lightning strikes and become jolted. Being amplified increases the damage of these lightning strikes. As demonstrated here, the radius of this exotic is stupidly ridiculous. As you can see, I can thunderclap around a wall facing away from the ads, and yet the lightning strikes this exotic creates will find them as long as they're in my radius. Thunderclap itself doesn't even need to connect with them. And you can see those goblins up on the ledge are not safe up there either. There's like an Earth-sized sphere radius around your character, and nothing in your orbit is safe. The range is insane, and by the way, this clip was pre-buff, and you can see that our amplified lightning strikes, which were the yellow numbers, were hitting 14k damage. Now after the buff, our amplified lightning strikes were tagging for 19k, which is a substantial 50% damage increase, and the lightning strike final blows will now refund melee energy instead of just the thunderclap final blows themselves. So you can see here in this breakneck run through just how much melee energy is refunded upon using a thunderclap. The ad clear is insane, the uptime is insane, and it's almost an insurmountable skull for levels. The consistency is through the roof, especially with the aid of some other things we're using to help us spam these melees. The main thing being our fusion rifle, the iterative loop with enhanced lead from gold, so it's very ammo efficient, and enhanced pugilist, which refunds 22% melee energy on final blows. So 1 or 2 kills with it, and you easily top off the rest of your melee. Then we have a melee kickstart on our gloves to give us a nice jump of melee energy back when we use our thunderclap. And by the way, the lightning strikes from the thunderclap will jolt, meaning that we're proccing Spark of Ions, which will give us an ionic trace and give us a nice chunky chunk of ability energy back. And on top of that, we have heavy-handed on our gloves to make an orb of power on a powered melee final blow, and also Spark of Amplitude to make an orb on rapid final blows, which is basically happening all the time. So one single thunderclap will often make 2 orbs. And these orbs are proccing Absolution and Invigoration on our boots to give us a ton of melee energy back, and we have Powerful Attraction on our class item paired along with Thruster to instantly scoop up these orbs right after thunderclapping, and at the same time we're proccing Outreach to refund more melee energy when we use Thruster. So there's a million different things happening to get your melee back when you use your thunderclap, so let's take it from the top. You thunderclap, you proc kickstart, you proc the cannon brace refund, you make a couple orbs, you thrust to proc Outreach and the boot mods, and you basically have your entire melee back, and if you don't, 1 or 2 iterative loop kills should top it off. Easy thunderclap loop, insane ad clear. If anything lives, they get jolted, profit, rinse, repeat. It's a very fun playstyle, and it's so much fun to just take a break from the consecration spam, at least for a bit. And if you're curious about how much damage a fully charged Thunderclap does, it's about the damage of a rocket, so it's not insane, but it's fine. And it's definitely more of an ad-clear tool. That's its main job. So anyways, let's continue breaking down the rest of the build. First things first, I wanted to mention the new artifact mods. First of all, there's Emergency Flare, which I haven't really figured out what this does yet. I assumed that when you use armor charge, it will always set you back down to 1 and not 0. But it turns out that's not the case. Not too sure what this does, but I'm sure it's decent, whatever it does. Then we have the thick of it, which says rapid final blows while surrounded grant armor charge, which can be very great for melee kickstart consistency because we will very often be surrounded with this build pretty much all the time. And finally, there's arc compounding in the final column, which says that arc sources deal increased damage to blind targets. Now, we don't actually have arc compounding equipped, but I did want to mention it and at least acknowledge its potential synergy with Spark of Beacons, which says that arc special weapon final blows while amplified create a blinding explosion. And no, we don't have Spark of Beacons either, but this is something you can run for extra damage if you find the room for it. Personally, I didn't want to sacrifice any fragments for it. But if you did sacrifice a fragment for it, it'd probably be Spark of Resistance, but I just feel like having all the resist you can get is extremely important for PvE, especially on Titan, because Titans usually play in close quarters. Now, continuing on with our subclass, I already talked about Amplitude and Ions, so our last fragment I didn't mention yet is Spark of Shock, so our nades can jolt. And speaking of our nades, our other aspect is Touch of Thunder, so we can turn our storm grenades into those roaming thunder clouds. And this is arguably the strongest grenade in the entire game, and I felt this was better than the other aspect choices on Prismatic. These thundercloud nades are just so good. I remember seeing a clip of people killing Rolk with just Titan storm nades alone with pre-nerf kickstart. And for the rest of our mods we didn't mention yet, we got hands-on for more super, heavy ammo finder just for the sake of lead from gold on our iterative loop, then arc siphon to make more orbs. On our gloves we got focusing strike to get some thruster energy back when we use our thunderclap. Then on our chest we got arc reserves and melee damage resist along with whatever elemental resist we need for the threat modifier. On our boots we got recuperation to get health back when we grab orbs, and this is proccing all the time because of Spark of Amplitude. And speaking of orbs, we also got Reaper on a class item, so our next weapon kill after using thruster will make an orb. Now onto our loadout, and generally I enjoy eager edge skating, so I'd be using something like this with Monte Carlo from our melee energy, iterative loop, and an eager edge sword. But if you don't really skate, you can use something like this with an arc GL to take advantage of our arc reserves on our chest. But if you're doing content with champions, I'd recommend something like this with Anarchy in your heavy slot and whatever kinetic primary you need to stun a champion. And for our stats, I prioritized double hundreds in resilience and strength while maintaining that tier 3 intellect soft cap and dump the rest into discipline. And that about does it for the build. It's a really fun way to play Titan. It's not a sweaty build by any means. It's definitely more laid back, but it has its job and it does it extremely well, and that's ad clear. If you're a Titan main and you want to break from the consecration spam, pick this build up. Trust me, it's a ton of fun. For the gameplay loop, you're really just looping 3 things back to back: Thunderclap, Thruster, and Iterative Loop Spam. Those are the only 3 things you need to chain abilities over and over, and I'm honestly having a blast with it. It's very user-friendly and a very easy build to use. The range of the lightning on the cannon brace is just bonkers. I know that word is kind of a meme, but it's the best way to describe it. It's just bonkers. It basically jolts the entire room in one punch, then your fire team can proceed to continually proc that jolt you applied. So anyways, the dim loadout link will be down below in the description and also the pinned comment if you'd like to give the build a try. And if you got any buddies who are Titan mains, I'd appreciate if you share the video with them. Maybe this is something they might want to try out. And that's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think about this build in the comments, and be sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed and subscribe if you are new. Would love to have you here for more Destiny 2 content on the way, especially with the launch of Act 2. There will definitely be a lot of juicy content to come, so stay tuned for that. Remember to check out our sponsor, Advanced GG, and use code Maven, or Maven30 if you're watching this before November 25th. Link down below, and I'll catch you in the next video coming the day after tomorrow. See you later.